Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So if my makeup is looking a little strange today, it's because it's not done yet. We are going to be testing out a brand new palette from Ofra Cosmetics that I picked up. This is their Holiday Glow palette. It's an Ulta online exclusive. If you guys saw my currently testing in December video, this is one of the products that I wanted to test out this month, and I actually have not cracked into it at all yet. So I thought it might be fun to film a first impressions style video with you guys. This is a full face palette. Of course, let me not blind you with the mirror, but basically you have everything in here that you need to create a full face of makeup, blush, bronzer, highlight, eyeshadow. So I figure we can put all that to the test today, see how everything works, see what kind of look we can come up with, and then I'll let you guys know what I think. Obviously, this is not like a full review on this palette because I'll want to use it more than one time to know what I think about it. So I will be doing like a full review of this palette when I do my update to my currently testing in January. But in the meantime, I just thought it might be fun to film and play around with this and show you guys my first impressions. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Lauren. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and chatting beauty with me. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I hope you'll click that subscribe button down there somewhere before you go. That way you'll be kept in the loop whenever I'm uploading new videos. And yeah, without any further introduction, let me scooch you guys a little closer so we can get into this demo. Alright, this is much better. Now you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Just as an FYI, I will list in the description box all of the other products that I'm currently wearing on my face if you're curious to know what they are. And in the meantime, let's get into this bad boy here. So again, this is what the palette looks like. So we get a bronzer, a highlighter, we get 6 eyeshadows here, 4 blushes, and then these 2 eyeshadows here could also double as like liner and brow color. The palette retails for $49 and it is said to be a $182 value, which is pretty crazy. They were doing a Cyber Monday sale and I was able to get this at 40% off, so it was on sale for $30 and I had a coupon. So that's why I was like, I really wanted to try it out for you guys and let you know, even at the full price tag, if this would be really worth $50. Now I can say that like this highlighter pan, this is the shade Blissful. I don't own this one, I have Rodeo Drive, but this is a full-sized highlighter pan. And what's cool about this palette is that it's magnetic, so you can actually pop all of these pans out. It's not like they're glued in. So if you ran out of a shade, you could actually replace it, or like let's say you weren't a big fan of the Blissful highlighter but you owned another one of their pan products, you could like switch things out. You could put these colors into a Z palette if you wanted to only use a few things. So I thought that was really kind of cool. These all, I believe, are full-size products. I mean, the eyeshadows look like they're the standard size of a single eyeshadow. These blushes are the only thing I'm not really sure about because they are a little bit on the smaller side. But you really, it takes so long to go through a full-size blush. I feel like you definitely have a lot of product here. So I feel like in terms of the value for the money, if these are good, you know, you definitely are getting a lot of product. Each pan is a really reasonable size, and I like the fact that it's sort of flexible, that you can pop different things out, you can replace things without having to rebuy the whole palette. So I think that's a really nice feature. You also get this big old mirror here, and it has a nice sort of magnetic closure. It's a cardboard packaging, but it's kind of like a nice cardboard. It doesn't feel really cheap. It feels like it's laminated just a little bit, so it should be pretty easy to keep it clean. So in terms of construction and the general outlay of this palette, I think it is pretty nice. So why don't we start out just like I normally would when I'm doing my makeup, and we're going to bronze up the face. Now I can't entirely tell with this Americano bronzer. I think it's shimmery. Let me swatch it for you guys. It feels very buttery and very soft, but it does look like it has a sheen to it. So I would not normally contour with this kind of a shade, so that is good to know. I probably would want another contour shade in this palette if I was traveling, just because I do generally like to contour, but we'll just maybe lightly warm up the face with this, and I'll know not to like go too crazy on the cheeks, otherwise we'll look like a disco ball. So I am going to use, I actually like to use these like fluffy tapered blush brushes for bronzer because I feel like it gives a nice light application. So I'm going to tap this in here, and right away there's like a ton of kickback. So there's a lot of powder. Let me tap off the excess because there seems to be quite a bit. That is pigmented and it is shiny. All right, so I'm going to like barely press that to pick up some of the excess powder that's flying everywhere. I'll just bronze up around the perimeter. This is quite a warm shade. I think if you were super fair, this might be something you have to be kind of careful with because it could look a little orange or a little dark. You want to use a very light hand. And as I said, it's shimmery, so just keep that in mind. I suppose if they are going to call this a holiday glow palette, they definitely want you to be glowing. So looking at this, my first thoughts are that the pigmentation is pretty nice and it is quite glowy. Like I definitely feel like my skin has a bit of a sheen to it, but it's not like it has chunks of glitter necessarily that look bad on my skin. I just think if you want to add a little more depth, you're going to need a separate contour powder. Like I said before, it is pretty powdery in the pan, so you want to use a very light hand so you don't have powder flying everywhere. It is pigmented, so you don't want to get too much on your brush or you're going to go overboard. But I think it's pretty. I think it'll look even better once we add in a blush. And I think the blushes, there I think are some shimmers and some matte. So I think we're definitely going to go with a matte blush just to kind of even things out a little bit. Speaking of which, so we have 4 different blush shades in this palette, and they are quite pigmented and they're a little bit on the darker side. I actually kind of like that there's a variety. Like this blush would be really great for someone with a deep complexion. Then you have this almost like nude color blush. I wonder what this actually looks like swatched. It feels really nice, I'll say that much. All these powders feel really creamy and beautiful. This one has shimmer in it. See, to me that almost looks more like a highlight or a blush topper, like if you wanted to add like a little bit of a glittery, sparkly sheen. There's not really very much pigment to that. But maybe if you're like really, really fair, it would look nice. I think I personally am gonna go with this shade right here. What is that one called? So that shade is called, the one I'm gonna apply is called Candy Apple. So let's see what that one actually looks like on the face. I'm gonna use a Luxe blush brush because this one's a little bit, softer and less dense. It's a little bit easier to not go overboard. I'm kind of afraid that this is going to be really pigmented and I don't want to like have clown cheeks. So we're just going to dust a little bit of this. I think that's really pretty actually. That's a very pretty shade. It's definitely noticeable, like it's showing up, but it blends out pretty. It is not like overly pigmented, but yeah, I needed like one little tap and that was enough. And then I'm just using like really light circular motions to blend it in. So I think that's really pretty. It gives a nice like healthy flush to the cheeks. It blended out pretty nicely, but again, I used a very light brush, not a dense brush, and a very light hand because I didn't want to go overboard. Just out of curiosity, why don't we swatch all the blush colors? So this first one here, what are you called? Need my little cheat sheet here. So this is Pink Satin. Then the one next to it, this is the light nude color. This is Apricot. Then B29 is the deeper shade. It's like a plum rose. It's really pretty, but again, that's very pigmented, so you gotta be careful if you're gonna use that if you have a light complexion. And then the last one is Candy Apple, which to the touch actually feels a little bit scratchy, but it didn't seem to go onto the skin unevenly or patchily or anything like that. So when you swatch it out, Candy Apple actually looks pretty dark, but as you can see, like it doesn't have to look too intense on the cheeks if you use the right brush. So these are the 4 blush shades. I'm also going to point out that I just tried to wipe these swatches off with a paper towel, and the 2 darker shades did not come off easily. They definitely have a little bit of a staining effect on the skin, so I have a feeling that means they're going to be pretty long wearing. Alright, so this is my favorite part. I'm most excited because I've heard so many great things about the Blissful highlighter, so I'm pretty pumped to put this baby on my face. This is what it looks like in the pan. It is absolutely stunning, sort of like a rose gold shade. You can see that it has like really fine metallic shimmery particles. These Ofra highlighters legitimately feel like butter. Look at that swatch. Oh my god, guys. Let me swatch this out for you. How freaking pretty is that? Oh my goodness. Now this shade may be a little bit deep on someone that has very fair skin because it's got a little bit more of like a nudie sort of pinkish undertone to it. So you might want to use a very light hand, use this as a blush topper if you're very, very fair skin. But I think it's going to work really well, I think, on a lot of like light medium to medium skin tones. It might even look nice on a deep skin tone, actually. It might not be too ashy. So oh my god, I did just really do that right now. Totally just dug my fingernail into my bronzer. That was unfortunate. Hold please. Well, today's gonna be one of those days, guys. At least the bronzer pan is gigantic, so even though I took a giant chunk out of it, there's still a lot left. All right, back to highlighting. So this is beautiful. Let us see what it looks like on the face. I'm gonna use my Luxe tapered highlighting brush. Just gonna tap a little bit in here. Holy glow, Batman. Wow. Wow, wow. I am like lightly tapping this, guys. This is not a lot of product, and that is glowy. What do you think? Feel like I am like highlighting to heaven right now. Holy smokes. So I'll say this much. If you are someone that doesn't like that really wet, reflective, metallic looking highlighter, this is probably going to be too intense for you. Like, I only put on a little bit and my cheeks look wet. That is how reflective and shiny this is. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and I feel like on my skin tone it actually works really well if I want that sort of more pinky rose gold highlight. Like Rodeo Drive is a little more gold champagne. This one is a little more pink rose gold, but I really dig it. I think it's absolutely stunning, but I can also see how this wouldn't be every single person's cup of tea. So let's move on to the eyes now. So it looks like you get 6 sort of metallic-y, satiny shadows over here, and then 2 mattes up here in a dark brown and a black. I already filled in my eyebrows with my Winky Luxe brow pencil, so I'm not going to use the dark brown powder to fill my brows in today, but I have a feeling that you probably could do that, or you could also use it as a liner. So why don't we swatch a few of these and see how they feel. All right, so I'm starting with, let's see, this top one is called Plastic. This is this sort of like light champagne shade. This looks like it would be a nice inner corner highlight. That's pretty. It's very sort of frosty, metallic white shade. Then next to that is called Essential. Ooh, that's pretty. A little chunky, but I feel like as you blend it in, it looks nice. This is sort of like a warm, rusty, metallic shade. Then you have Gold Rush, which I actually do think I have this. I got it in an Ipsy bag at some point or another. Pretty sure. So that's a gold shade, very, very pretty. Then next to that is Winterberry, which looks like a frosty cranberry shade. Is this one matte? This one might be more matte, or it's like a satiny finish, I think, so it's less metallic. That's what Winterberry looks like. Then we have Millennium Gold, which is a little bit deeper than that first shade, Plastic. This one's, again, a little frosty, a little chunky. Not bad. That's this one right over here on the end. And then the very last shade is called Bohemian, and that is more of a brown, sort of metallic. Let me swatch this one right here on the bottom. So I swatched that one right here. So that one again is called Bohemian. Pretty. So all these shades are really nice. The only thing is that they're all shimmery, and the bronzer in here is shimmery, which means it's gonna not necessarily be the best transition color. So it's gonna be interesting to see how I can actually come up with a full look using these shades. All right, I'm gonna move a little closer for you guys, and I think what I'm gonna do is start out with the blush shade called Apricot, which was the nude blush, and I'm gonna use that as a transition shade on my eyes. And I'm gonna use a Morphe M441 brush, which is one of my favorite crease brushes. Now this is super powdery. There's like a lot of kickback to tap off, and I like barely even tapped my brush in there. I'm just gonna buff this in the crease because I feel like this is gonna be a nice sort of light transition color since we don't really have something equivalent in the eyes. All right, I like that. I think that was a good decision. That actually does make a very nice sort of peachy neutral transition color. So I think what the next thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take that Winterberry shade, which was the sort of more deep red. I'm going to not stick my fingernails in any more makeup today. Jeez Louise, guys, I'm not with it. I'm going to use this same, but you know what? I'm not going to use the same brush. I'm going to save this for blending. Let me take another little crease brush and I'm going to go into the Winterberry shade. Again, these are a little bit powdery. Gotta definitely tap off the excess. And I'm going to just take this right in the outer corner. I feel like this is a nice buildably pigmented shade. Like it shows up for sure, but it's not so intense that it becomes patchy and difficult to blend in. It's nice. And it's got like a very slight sheen to it. It's not completely matte, but it's definitely not as metallic as some of these other shades. Now, I think what I want to do is take that shade called Essential, which is this sort of rusty shade up here, and I'm going to use my finger to apply this because I just generally think these metallic type shadows go on best when you can really pack them onto the lid with your finger. Ooh, yeah. That's pretty. So I'm just going to pack this onto the lid. I'm not going to bring it up too high. We're definitely going to need to go back in with that Winterberry shade to intensify it because I feel like once you put this other shade on, it kind of disappears. You don't see it as much. And I want to be more of a gradient with the outer part of my eye looking a little bit deeper. And actually, I think I'm going to go into the dark brown shade at that bottom here, just to add even more depth and see if I can build that up. I feel like the pigmentation on this is all right. It's not giving me quite as much as I would like. In a way, sometimes buildable shadows can be nice because they're easier to work with, especially if you're a beginner with makeup. Sometimes pigmented eyeshadows can be a little bit difficult to work with. It's a little bit easier to keep adding more than it is if you put on too much eyeshadow and then have to try to remedy a situation where things will look like splotchy because you've applied too much product. I'm gonna go back in with the first blending brush and then that blush shade just to blend out those edges a little bit. Like, I think this is pretty, but it's not like giving me crazy, like, oh my god, this is the most amazing thing I've ever put on my face vibes. I think I'm gonna go in and highlight a little bit with Plastic, that sort of frosty white shade. Gonna take that up on the brow bone. That's a nice highlight. And I'm gonna take it into the inner corner a little bit. And actually, what I think this look needs a little bit of, I'm gonna take the Blissful highlighter and I'm just gonna kind of pop this right on the inner third of the lid to add a little pizzazz. I think that will jazz this up a little bit. All right, and then I think the last step for the eyeshadow is going to be adding to the lower lash line. I think I'm going to take the Winterberry shade on a little smudgy brush. I'm just going to smudge this under the lower lash line. And then in the very outer corners, I'm going to take the dark brown shade. Yeah, this dark brown does not seem to be doing a lot for me. It feels very scratchy to the touch. Let me swatch it and just look. Yeah, see, look, there's like nothing. It's like doing nothing. Now, I sort of feel like that might be good for eyebrows then, since it's so pale. Let's see the black. The black is also really sheer. So yeah, not as big of a fan of those shades. I feel like those are not really doing much of anything. Maybe since I know the black is so sheer, let me take a little bit of this. Going for smoky holiday vibes today, apparently. All right, so let me finish things up. I'm going to put on some mascara, liner, lashes, and then I'm going to put on this Ofra liquid lipstick in the shade Tuscany. And I will be right back to show you guys the completed look. And we are back. This is my completed look. So let's evaluate here. I definitely think that, you know, the overall look is quite pretty. The eyeshadows, like, I think that the end result is nice. These are very popular colors right now, these warm tones, the berries, the golds. So odds are you can probably find these eyeshadows elsewhere. The formula was alright. It wasn't my absolute favorite for eyeshadow because the pigmentation was lacking a little bit in some of the shades. I think that it makes it a little bit more friendly to work with, especially if you are newer to eyeshadows, because you can build up those darker colors as opposed to putting on too much too quickly. But as someone that does a lot of makeup, I personally would have preferred my dark browns, blacks, and like darker colors generally to be a little bit more rich. I also, you know, feel like there is no like transition eyeshadow in this palette. I was happy that I was able to make that blush shade work. I do think that that helped a lot in kind of just blending everything out. And yeah, I definitely feel like liner and lashes really makes this look and kind of really completes it. This is a very sort of smoky holiday look. This would be like a evening out holiday party kind of a thing, not my like I'm gonna go grocery shopping. I mean, I probably would wear this makeup grocery shopping because it's me, but you know what I mean. As for the face products, I think that the bronzer was nice. I kind of wish it was matte instead of shimmery just because so much else in this palette is shimmery. I know this is the Holiday Glow palette, but I feel like having every single product be glowy is a little bit overkill. But the actual like shade of it is nice. It does go on nicely. I wish I hadn't gouged out a giant chunk of it because, you know, I'm the best like that. I think the blush colors are nice. I think that you can make the darker shades work for you if you have a lighter complexion, if you use a really, really soft brush and use a really light hand, but you might want to be careful with that darkest shade. I think that the lighter shades might not show up as well on deeper skin tones, but it looks like you can also use them as eyeshadows. So take what you want from that. I do think that the blush I chose went on really nicely. I hope that it actually wears well and holds up. Like I said before, when I was swatching the blushes, they did not come off my hand easily, so that gives me some hope. And then the Blissful highlighter, I think, is absolutely stunning. I love it. I think it's so pretty. Now, I have a more light medium complexion, so this does work with my skin tone. I think if you were lighter than me, it might look a little stripy. It would make a beautiful eyeshadow. But then again, that might take away some of the value from this palette for you if you're not able to actually use that product as a highlighter and you can only use it as an eyeshadow, so that's just something to consider. But really, the ultimate question at the end of the day is, do I think this palette is actually worth $50 based on my first impressions? So let's just consider a couple of things here. Now, the Blissful highlighter, if you were to buy it on its own, would retail for $29. So this palette is $49, so basically you're spending another $20 for everything in this palette, like if you were considering picking up this highlighter by itself. But even still, would I spend $20 for everything else that's in this palette? I think the eyeshadows were all right, but they were not by far my favorite. I think, again, the blush formula, again, is also nice, but it's not my favorite, and I'm not a big fan of shimmery bronzers. So I feel like at the sale price, getting this whole palette for $30, I think it was totally worth it because that's basically the same price as the single highlighter. And I think that I will get some use out of this, and I feel like the quality of everything is not so bad that I feel like, okay, that would be ridiculous to spend $30 for this. And I also like the fact that if I'm not a huge fan of some of these shades, I can pop them out and put other things in this palette and make it kind of more customized to my personal preferences, so that's really cool. But for $50, I don't know if I love every single product in here enough that I would say it's worth spending $50 on personally. Really, the big star of this is that Blissful highlighter for me. So again, I kind of feel like I would, if I was gonna get it, normally it would have cost me $30. So this was a good value for me in that respect, but I think if you were looking to spend your own hard-earned money on this, I don't know, it would be up to you whether or not these are shades you already have, products that you would use all the time. And like if you could use a coupon and get it at a discount, it might be worth it to you. But I sort of feel like I would give this like 3 out of 5 stars. Like it's not terrible, but it's not like the most amazing thing I've ever used on the planet. I don't dislike the way that my look came out today, but I just feel like I have other eyeshadows like this. I wish there was maybe like one other matte color or something like that. I wish that these dark shades up here were a little bit more pigmented. And yeah, I wish this bronzer was matte instead of glittery. Then that would have been, I think, worth $50 to me if there were just those little tweaks. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed doing this first impression demo with me and seeing this palette, especially if you were considering to pick it up for yourself. If you enjoyed these videos, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate your support. And again, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you click that button before you go. And I would love to hear from you guys if you've purchased this palette, what you thought of it, or if you would consider buying it, or what in this palette would actually make you want to spend $50 on it. Do you think it's worth it? Even for that blissful highlighter, the full-size pan? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love hearing from you guys, and you guys can also hear from each other what your experiences and opinions are, which I think would be helpful to everybody. So again, I will be giving you guys a more complete update on this palette. I'm obviously going to use it more than just this one time. I'm going to see how this wears, going to put it to more of a test. I'll probably post some more looks that I create with this on my Instagram as the rest of the month goes on. And then in my January currently testing update video, I will give you guys the full scoop on this. So make sure that you come back for that at the beginning of January. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.